Well, hey now, folks. John Duffin here, Duffin Media, Duffin Coaching. Welcome to the Optimize Your Communications lunchtime. Well, it's going to be lunchtime today, right? Maybe it's not for you. Maybe you're continuing to plow through the morning. Hey, if you're on the West Coast, maybe you're just getting rolling with your Monday morning, but whatever it is, welcome here. So what's the whole purpose and point? Folks, I've got people that are joining me on Facebook. I've got people that are joining me on LinkedIn and on YouTube, all live. So first and foremost, I welcome everybody. So what was the point? What is the point? Every day you see me on here, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to deliver 3 top tips that you can take away, utilize. Today, you can utilize them as early as this afternoon. That will help you optimize your communications by leveraging your voice. Bold claim, right? Well, maybe, but I feel like from the bottom of my heart, I know that these techniques have worked. More importantly, I love getting to share them. Hey, here's a heads up. If you are joining me live, drop a comment. Just say live. If you're watching this on the replay, that's great too. Type the word replay, whatever. I will get all of the comments, right? This way I can address specific concerns, questions, situations, experience. That's what this is all about. So for day 1 today, here's the setup. I like to present 3 situations, 3 personal experiences or learned experiences, and then 3 solutions. 3 top tips. That's what we're going to work on today. Brad Storm, baby! Checking us out live. I love this on Facebook and punching today in the face. You got that right, Brad. It is such a privilege and pleasure. Brad Storm is one of the coolest people, voiceover pro, teaches techniques, technical, but really is a voice narration monster. And so he's somebody you should know. And folks, I get to know him as well. So what are we going to do here today? Look, here's what I'm thinking. Today is this. I'm going to not go real heavy in regards to slides because today I have a very specific point that I want to get across. But let me ask you a question. I typically start the same way with a lot of presentations, but I'm going to start that way today. So your question, right? Here's the question I always ask. Have you ever had a conversation, a business presentation, an encounter in business, heck, in life, where you thought you were doing great, plowing through that material, feeling good about yourself, but you received either surprisingly negative feedback or worse, to me at least, apathy, no feedback, and you just couldn't understand why? Has it ever happened to you? Well, certainly it's happened to me. I don't want to act all proud and act like, no, never happened. Absolutely has happened to me. So, and if it's happened to you, it's absolutely okay. It's the whole point as to why we are here. But of course is right. I got you, buddy. Brad, thank you for that. Yeah, of course. All of us. Absolutely all of us. The truth of the matter is, yeah, it's going to happen. You know what the great thing is? It is so presentable. I'm sorry. Hello, John. It is so preventable. That's the word I wanted. It's so preventable. And here's the good news. You're going to walk away today with 3 tips that are going to get you out of that situation. So I'm going to ask you a second question today. No need for a slide. You can just focus for a moment. And I'm going to ask you this. Have you ever had a business conversation where you felt like you were in front of the questions, where you felt like, oh my God, I know that answer, or I know that concern, or I've got this. Have you ever felt that way in the midst of a conversation, a communication? Have you ever felt like, oh my God, I got this? I'm grateful to say I have, and it's such a rush to be able to do that. And it's not necessarily an ego thing. Look, the whole point of this today is understanding that when you're coming from a place of service in business, you want to generate more revenue, come from service. But the fact of the matter is you're coming from a place of contribution. Look, I got you, man. Of course it takes time. You got to push past fear. One of Brad's mantras, and I'm putting this up intentionally, is punch it today in the face. It's an aggressive stance, but sometimes you gotta, right? You gotta. So you may not be that fearless type all the time, right? For me, I'll share myself. I have absolutely been nervous before with presentations. With most of the time, I get to speak in front of audiences. I get to speak to clients. I've done a myriad, thousands of presentations. I still get nervous before. All right. So, number one tip. I don't like to leave guys waiting. I don't like to leave anybody hanging or waiting. Here is your number one tip of the day. Keep this thought in mind when I talk about it's going to be permission to speak freely. Have you earned permission to communicate? By the way, I am literally stealing this. If Scott Einbinder is watching live or on the replay, jump in. I have become a massive fan of Scott Einbinder. So this permission to communicate, have you earned the permission to communicate, is big. I got that quote directly from Scott, a great person to follow, especially if you are in real estate. If you are looking to secure and enhance your real estate career, look up Scott Einbinder. He's amazing. When he gave this expression during what he calls the Scott Einbinder experience, have you earned permission to communicate? And then I'll add, are you sure? Are you sure? I just had somebody ask me a question literally yesterday. One of the gifts that I get in terms of being able to be in the business that I'm in, which is helping people to speak, present, increase their results, and what have you, sounds all lofty, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, right? But what I'm trying to say is one of the gifts that I get is the privilege of people ask me questions all the time. So the focal point of today is this question, which is, how do I sound convincing, authoritative, persuasive in the midst of an important conversation? Interview, real estate listing. My background is media sales, executive media sales, sales and management, strategy, actually selling, servicing clients, and leading teams to do all of that, right? So that's my vantage point. That's where my lenses tend to focus. And I'm also a licensed realtor, so I tend to look there. How can you sound persuasive? But the fact of the matter is, I just saw a minor blip in my text, so I hope that doesn't continue. But what I'm going to say is, how do you sound that way? Well, here's the deal. Tip number one that I wanted to go with is this. I'm calling it literally, with permission to speak freely, it is the preparation. Preparation is the separation, right? So you want to speak freely, you got to earn it. Your number one tip. Have you asked enough questions in advance? I'm going to give you the second tip, right? Have you asked those questions in advance at the right time? Number three, don't be afraid to triple check. Don't be afraid to use any and every resource. So now you could know that it's 12:39, right? In the first 9 minutes, I've delivered all three tips. Ask great questions. Ask those questions at the right, appropriate time. And then don't be afraid to triple check. Let me give you some examples. Remember what I said? I'm going to give you situations, right? So here's one. Don't laugh. Well, all right, you can. That's fine. Here's a question. Here's a situation. All right. So I'm in first grade. That's been a couple years, right? I'm in first grade. And I remember some of these examples are older and some of them are as recently as last Thursday or yesterday, right? Here's one that's older. I'm in first grade and I'm watching some little kid, about 6 years old, get brutalized by a nun in Catholic school. That's another conversation for my therapist. But I'm watching some kid get brutalized because he was asking a question about the homework that was due when it was due. It's a memory that has literally stuck in my head. Now, of course, there's all sorts of other issues that I can work through there, but I'm going to give you the meat of that situation. This kid is asking questions about the homework when he's supposed to be delivering homework. And the nun freaks out and everything's awful, and then we're all traumatized. Has that ever happened to you in a business situation? Have you ever watched somebody do that? Ask questions that A, they either should have already known the answer, or B, should have asked at any time rather than that conversation, that presentation, that proposal, that ask. Have you ever watched it happen? It's excruciating. So I don't. Hey, one of the nice parts about being traumatized, I guess, is that you remember things. So I remembered back then and always, do your homework. Just do your homework. I can remember one other story of the first grade situation. The next day, the nun's now going to justify the trauma. Nice, right? But she's going to try. And she's explaining, you can ask me any question you want in any way you want, but I just need to know before the fact. Do you know what's weird? I never forgot that. I never forgot that. So as a little kid, I'm remembering, ask questions and ask them at the right time. So you want to sound more confident in a presentation. Here's the sequencing. You've got to get permission to communicate. Thank you, Scott Einbinder. Permission to communicate. Where does that come from? It comes from the client. It comes from whoever is offering to pay you. Very few people get upset about answering detailed questions. Very few people. At the right time. If they're in the midst of a fire drill, if they're in the midst of some crisis situation where the client is all freaked out, or if you're walking around with paperwork and asking boneheaded questions when you're a realtor, at that moment, and then you're like, okay, I need you to sign, it's like, that just adds tension. How do you think you sound in a tense situation? I'll help you. Awful. Because then you carry that tension in your voice, in your demeanor, in your body language. So the science tells you, oh, folks, by the way, I reference a lot right now. Oh, my God. Stephen Heiser. Yeah, baby. Great to have you aboard. Desperate is right. Unprepared is another. Lazy is a third. Right? You sound desperate. Absolutely correct. You sound desperate, unprepared, lazy, entitled. All right? People do want to give you information because they don't want to waste their own time. So how can you secure the information, the right information in advance? I'll help you. It's easy. Ask questions that are easy to answer. Ask questions prior, right? Hey, come on in and we want you to present. Isn't that a great feeling? Hey, come on, sure. We would love to listen to your proposal, pricing and proposal for our event, for our streaming advertising, to hire you. Great. And then immediately you start thinking of attributes on your end. Okay, I could do this, and I could do that, and then I could do this, and then I'll do that, and then I'll show them that. It's a really one-sided conversation that has nothing to do with them. Folks, if you hear me say this once, I'm going to say it 9,000 times, which is simply this. It only matters if it matters to them. You want to sound confident? You want to sound authoritative? Talk to them in a language not only that they'll understand, not only that they'll relate to, but that actually matters to them. Your capabilities don't matter if it doesn't solve something specific, timely, and relevant. So ask the questions. You can even ask of the person that's bringing you in, because you're always trying to help them, which in turn helps you, right? So there is an ulterior motive, but we're just trying to make the job easier and more on point. So what do? Somebody's allowing you in to speak, that permission to communicate. I want to hear more. By the way, a concern, an objection, a clarification, they're all permission to communicate. But here's the best one that I've come up with so far, at least, that seems to resonate the most. Deliver what they want to hear. How do you know? Talk to not only the surface person. Ask that person, who else would you prefer I speak to? So, and you position it in a way that doesn't sound like you're trying to go around them, right? How can I make your job easier? You want me to come in at 3:00. The last thing I want to do is make you look bad. So is there anyone you'd like me to talk to so I can handle the nuts and bolts of this situation? Or if you're a realtor, look, we can do things in advance so we're not dumping a lot of new information at the moment we show up. Could we speak to anyone else? Have you done the homework? Have you clarified what you've learned? It's really easy to Google. Let me ask you another question, right? A lot of questions today, right? That's kind of the theme of what we're talking about here, right? Here's another question I'll ask of anyone that's on the live end of this call, right? Who's heard the expression lately? Oh, I've done research. Anyone? About anything? Oh, no. I've done my own research and blah, 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 right? Okay, I have in a number of hot button sensitive things. Here's my follow-up question to anyone. Have you fact-checked it? Have you fact-checked it? Exactly. Have you fact-checked it? Do you know this is actually relevant to the conversation now? How do you know? Who did you speak with? How did you get that clarified? Is it relevant now? So here's another story, a little more current than first grade. I'm delivering a speaking presentation. Bunch of high-powered realtors, an award thing. If Josh Buchter and Beth Williams are anywhere nearby, I continually get to say I love them dearly because they put me in my first position that I got to speak in front of audiences, which was brilliantly, it was brilliant in regards to how great it felt, right? And it told me that I was heading in the right direction. Here's why. I asked them a million questions. Name pronunciations, accents, descriptive terms. Are they still with so-and-so? The last thing I wanted to do is embarrass them. You know where I also learned that? I do public address announcing now. And somebody said to me, and I love this, which is when you're doing public address announcing, I just did an event where there was 5,000 bikers, right? Bicyclists. When you say bikers, sometimes you get a different image, right? And that's fine. Nothing wrong with that image. But this is cyclists in Philadelphia. It was beautiful, called the Philly Bike Ride. Happened about 2 weeks ago. Over 5,000 cyclists. What were my questions prior so that I could sound confident, that I sounded like I belonged, that I added value? Would you want to sound persuasive? Add legit value. How? So my questions prior were, do you want me to pronounce first and last names? The answer was no. Do you? Good. Nothing trips you up more than name pronunciation, right? No, that's Dufine. No, it's Duffin. Yo, Tommy Kenyon. Love it. There you go, Bubba. I love it. Great to have you here, man. So here's the thing. You're asking the questions in the formatting. Do you want me to go in this order? Do you want me to say this? Do you want me to say it like that? What about the sequencing? When do you want me to go? I asked 1,000 questions. Now, in the past, I would have been fearful that would make me look stupid. I should already know this. You're paying me to deliver a service. This is all the weird stuff that can go on in your head. Okay, I'm gonna make a suggestion. Let it go. Let it go. Ask the right questions, as we talked about, and ask them at the right time. If I showed up with 5,000 cyclists and now I'm going to start asking, hey, do you want me to say, and blah, 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 do you want me to, blah, 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 blah. No, they're busy. Their minds are fried at this point. This is when they want a pro. If you're delivering a presentation to a client, your digital streaming services, your ability for staffing, your ability to help a company interview, or literally anything that where you're going to add value, have the questions asked at the right time. Okay. So when I showed up on that Saturday, I knew all this. I knew all of it. I don't mean this to pat myself on the back. It sounds a little gross when I do this, but I'll risk it. I got great feedback. All kinds of words they used, all kinds of energy. A pro, knew what he was doing, didn't have to babysit. Everything was handled. This is why they want to pay you. A company would want to bring you on because you can solve problems. You know how to prove it? You want to sound in a positive, authoritative way? And by the way, I don't like the word authoritative. It sounds a little bossy. In a consultative way, earn it. Ask the right questions. Ask the right questions at the right time. What was my third? Don't be afraid to triple check. There's your question. Geez, there's your question, right? Nothing. Thank you, Stephen. You got that right, man. Every once in a while, and I couldn't agree more. You do something good, pat yourself on the back. Indeed, you've earned it when you earn it. So, triple check your questions. Ask other people. Hey, I just did the following, right? And so for the cyclist, that was one of the more recent. I just did a voice job helping a business right now, a nonprofit. I felt great about it. The questions, the triple checking, I headed in 3 directions here. I gave them 3 options based upon what you had asked me or the conversations we had. This is prior to the due date. I just want to keep making sure I'm headed in the right direction. So, if somebody sent you something, I've got people that are signed up for these series of calls. I've got clients that are managing a lot of people and a lot of money. Have you ever gotten that sense of, I just want to triple check something before I come in? Say you're listening to someone present, right? You're listening to someone present, and the fact of the matter is, it's like, and they say to you, hey, I just want to check one more time before I come in tomorrow at 10 a.m. Has anything changed? Has anything shifted? Am I still in the right direction? Obviously, the answer you want really is no, everything's cool. You're doing great. But I got to tell you, the answer you really want, that's a good one. Because if you're lazy, it's like, okay, it's all done. That's great. I feel good about it. But you know the one you really want? You know what? Our priority shifted here. We just didn't get the funding for this. So we're going to need to focus on that. Wouldn't you want to know that? Do you remember when I asked in the very beginning, the initial question, the part about the business presentation where you were getting surprisingly either negative feedback or no feedback at all? What do you think the biggest reason that could be? Okay, I'll help you. You didn't answer what really mattered to them at the time. And here's the problem. You can feel that when you're speaking. You can feel that sense of apathy, indifference. So you could do the following. If that happens, well, is something wrong? Something changed? Well, your whole tone of voice Hey, listen, I believe that happened to me, Brad, or your presentation wasn't interesting enough. That actually happened to me. I no shame in that. No shame. That was a preparation issue too, by the way. But something changed. Then it's expressed with either apathy or negative feedback or whatever the case may be. And then you get weird. Sorry, I'll just speak for me. Then I get weird. We could, or that's when you don't sound confident, assured, coming from contribution, service related, solving problems, adding value, all of those things, right? So if you are asking the right questions, here's how this rolls. And it's kind of easy. We'll go back to the summary for today, the asking the great questions. I'm grateful because I've watched people do it and I've gotten pretty good at this. So that's an avenue where I've always felt like I earn my keep. That's a very much an acquired skill. Do your homework in advance. Do the easy homework of the Google and YouTube and your history. The least about you, the better. All right. And then number two, oh, brother, Tommy Kenyon, just with the answer of the day, ask it and listen. You got it. You got it. That's 100% true. Let them contribute. You know why? Because they want to, because they need to, because you sound like an empty kettle when you're just prattling on about what you want and need. That cyclist situation from a couple of weeks ago. Hey, oh my God, wait, whoa. I need to say hi to somebody. John McBride, public address announcer extraordinaire. If you're from the Philadelphia region, and now it's think region, don't just think Philadelphia, with John McBride. And it's an event, there's a great chance that John McBride is calling it. A great chance. And if so, then you know he's handling it like a pro. You know why? He does his homework. So I'm reading this. No feedback could be based on you doing a solid job. It's like a newspaper. If it bleeds, it reads. Could, not always. I love that. But there's always a difference. And the fact of the matter is, triple check before. Ask other people with the permission of the person you're meeting with. Include them in. If they say, no, I want you to go through me, then great. Go through them. Make their job easy. Make them look good so that when you're speaking, interview, listing appointment, advertising, client, streaming, personnel hire, you're helping them. And they know it. So you get the chance to shine. You get the chance to shine. I'm going to dive into a question real fast, too. And this is a tough one. So Stephen Heiser's asking me, so how do you recover from that in the middle of a presentation when you sense it's happening? Oh, my God. Talk about putting me on the spot. I'm laughing with you. You know why? Because it's really, really hard. It's really hard to do so because I'll speak for me. Once I get defensive, it's hard for me to come out of it. So here's what I do. Suggestion tends to work for me. Lean into it. Don't run from it. No one's going to point and laugh, probably. I have not yet had people point and laugh at me to my face, so I can't speak for when I leave. But I will say this, address it specifically, not in a confrontational way. Oh, here's a personal favorite of mine. So I'm going to go back to the question, how do you recover? You're heading in a wrong direction. All of a sudden you realize it. Let me ask you, is this still the direction you'd like me to head? You don't have to point out, hey, you look uncomfortable or you're not responding. Don't make them feel weird. But if you sense that, here's a fact check. It's always better to do it in advance. It's bad to ignore it. Then you come off as like tone deaf. So you could literally ask them, hey, look, as we continue, here's the way that you say it, and tell me how this sounds. As we continue, are we still heading in a direction you want to go? Imagine a tour guide, a Sherpa. There's a killer book that I'm going to reference called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, who talks about people in regards to the best consultative people that are presenting are coming as almost a Sherpa, like Yoda. They're not telling you what to do. They're heading you in the right direction. So wouldn't it be cool and refreshing if you literally said, let me just make sure I know, and you could even help them. Look, situations change. We're all working on real time. Things literally happen in a moment's notice. Are we still heading in the right direction? Would you like me to head in a different direction? Did you notice the two terminologies? I'm going to ask you what sounds better. Are we headed in the right direction? Or B, I just want to make sure you want to go with me in this direction. What sounds more confident of the two? Well, to me, what sounds more confident is asking, would you like to go in a different direction? Because it shows that you are following without getting defensive or pointing fingers or weird or, hey, I thought this was good. I've heard people say what I just said, and it's ridiculous. So how do you get out of it, lean into it, and help them? Always help the listener, the audience, the client. Mostly start in this priority list. Who's paying you? Them. The old cliche, who's the decision maker? Them. Go to them. Hey, would you like me to head in a different direction, or do you feel good still heading here? I'll bet you they're going to come back. I'll bet you they're going to come back and say, hey, you know what? I would rather we go here. Great. And John McBride, you got that right. Oh, thank you, John. You're very, very kind. You're very, very kind. And you are such a pro. Hey, the results are feedback is right. But here's where we're going to help in this regard. When you ask the right questions, if you're in the middle of a situation and it feels uncomfortable, don't make someone uncomfortable with you. Make them feel more comfortable. That makes sense? And Stephen, I hope I answered your question. And any more detailed questions, here's a great way to get to me. Right? See that QR code? Fancy, huh? That's my website, all my contact information. And here's the deal. What I want to do and continue to do is this. Drop at least 3 tips. Do it in a way that's palpable, manageable, and do it in about a half hour so that you're not getting bludgeoned with information. But I'm telling you, if today, for your next conversation, don't show up at a meeting and then start asking a lot of CNA or detail questions. But we're all trying to find new business. 2024 is literally around the corner. And so, yeah, you might be really pushing hard to get the end of 2023, but if you've got any kind of vision, we're in 2024. And if I'm going to be hustling right now, it's making sure that I am optimizing time. And where I suggest with you is to optimize your communications. You want to talk to me further. You want to book a first-time discovery call. You want to be able to talk in more detail. Any question, hit the QR code. Pretty easy, right? You hit the QR code, goes right to my website where there's a bunch of information and a way to contact me. And lastly, to make it really easy, did I do that right? There's my email address, jd@duffandmedia. Oh, come on, John. That was terrible typing. Jeez, that was sloppy. How about we do this? I'm taking that off because it's ridiculous. jd@duffandmedia.com. But go easy. Use the QR code and you'll find me. Folks, those are the 3 tips for today. I am wildly grateful that you showed up. This will stay on the replay and you'll find it Facebook Live, YouTube Live, LinkedIn, and I will be back tomorrow. I'll have the time for you shortly, and check your, as they used to say. It's going to make you sound like 100 years old. Check your local listings, and you will see what time I'm showing up tomorrow. But I can't wait, folks. I'm very grateful for everybody who showed up, who participated. Means the world to me. I hope you have a fantastic day. Much more to follow. And again, when you want to optimize your communications by leveraging your voice, ask the right questions. Ask them at the right time. triple check like crazy. You do that, people are going to want you to come back. And you're going to speak with confidence and persuasion. Have a fantastic day. Oh, my God. There you go. Michael Plishka, you got that right. Same Duffin time, same Duffin station. That's 1,000% correct. Much love, buddy. I'm so glad you were able to be on the call, too. Have a wonderful day, folks. Be good to yourselves. We'll talk soon. Bye.